Hey guys, Probable1701 here, and today we are going to be ranking the Master Stories from the Third Doctor era. Basically, the Roger Delgado Master Stories. Because I absolutely love Roger Delgado. I love his portrayal of the Master. He's just so good in this role. And so I've seen all of his stories with the exception I haven't seen all of the Time Monster, which is actually going to be at the bottom because of that. Because I have actually started to watch the Time Monster. I either watched the first episode or the first two episodes, and I couldn't engage with the story. Now, knowing the Time Monster's reputation might have something to do with that, because it does have a bad reputation. And part of that could be I had been watching a lot of Doctor Who, because a friend of mine had BritBox, so we had been watching a lot of Doctor Who together, and I was just kind of burned out, I think, on it. It's one of the reasons why I don't just try to power through Classic Who as much as I do. I like to just kind of slowly take my time with it. I mean, I've been watching Classic Who since I was 3 years old, but I live in the States, and you didn't quite have access growing up in the 80s and 90s to where you could get a hold of these like you can now. But even now, I don't like to just watch like five stories I've never seen before in a week. I don't want to cram that in because I feel like by the time I get to that fourth or fifth story, I'm not going to appreciate it as fully as I should. Maybe that's one of the reasons why I don't appreciate the Demons as much as most people, is because I had watched so much of season 8, having only seen a couple of season 8 going into that box set. That's why I need to rewatch the Daemons. But the Time Monster, I think, suffered from that. I think if I had just not watched any Classic Who in a while or any of the Pertwee era in a while, excuse me, I might have been more willing to sit through it. But because of that, I couldn't. I couldn't click with the story. So I've only seen the first episode or two of it, and that's why it's at the bottom. I literally was watching it, was like, I don't feel like watching the rest of this right now. I never got back around to it. Number 7 is the Claws of Axos. That's the only one I can think of, probably from the Pertwee era in general, that I've seen all of that I just don't like. I just don't like this story. Roger is still really good in it, and the main cast, the Brigadier, John, Joe, they're really good in it. And I really like the one guest actor, the guy who plays the agent who's tracking down the Master. I really like him in this. He's really good. I would have liked to have seen him come back in another story. I really enjoyed him. The Master is a bit more frantic in this one. Roger's having to play him more emotional. He's not as calm and even tempered, mainly because he hasn't had time to plan. The Master hasn't had time to set up these elaborate schemes like he had in Terror of the Autons and Mind of Evil, where he's had time to lay all these traps and get his plans set up just like he wants them. He's very reserved and calm and level-headed in these, and I love that portrayal. Here he's a little more frantic because he's having to basically make it up as he goes. He managed to get a rudimentary plan into action with the Axons to try to save his own skin, but now he's very much having to improvise it as he goes, and I like how that reflects in Roger's performance. He is a little more emotional. He's not as calm as he is in the previous two stories. Just the story itself doesn't really click with me. I don't really care for the Axons. I don't really care for how it resolves. I just don't really care for this story. Next on the list is the Daemons. I just don't click with the Daemons like most people do. It's not a bad story. Let me say that. It's not like Claws of Axons. I like the Daemons. I just don't love the Daemons. I think the script is really good. I have some issues with the execution, which is nothing against Christopher Barry. Christopher Barry is an amazing Doctor Who director. Part of it is when they reach the Azrael, whatever his name is, the godlike creature at the end. I can tell it's the same guy who voices Omega, very obviously, because seeing as I saw the Third Doctor first, I have the same problem with Hand of Fear episode 4. It's the same guy who voices Omega. That voice is very distinct for me. So anytime I hear it and it's not Omega, I'm sitting here watching it going, oh, that's the guy who voices Omega, and it takes me out of it a little bit. I don't really care for his character design. It really does just look like a dude without a shirt wearing some makeup. And then I've mentioned how I don't like the reporter in the first episode, although people have informed me in the comments that that's done purposely. He's supposed to be purposely that unlikable. So, well done, Christopher Barry, because I was ready to throw my remote through the screen at him. I was very upset when that professor died. That professor didn't like him either. I need to watch the omnibus version of this one. I think I might like it better. Just a nice little shorter cut down of it. I do plan on doing that sometime, maybe in another couple months when the show's had a little bit of time to fade from my mind, make it rewatchable. And again, I do think Roger is great in this story. I still think I like him a little better in Terror and Mind of Evil. I just love how calm he is in those, but he's still really, really good here. Next on the list is Colony in Space. I like Colony in Space better than most, because I know most people prefer the Daemons over Colony in Space. I like Colony in Space better. I actually think Colony in Space is well paced. Some people seem to think it drags. I totally disagree, because I love how the first 3 episodes are mainly about the conflict between the colonists and the miners. And you kind of figure that's what the story's going to be about, and then boom, halfway through the story in episode 4, you have the Masters show back up. And then that's right when you first start finding out about the Lost City and everything starts taking place in the Lost City. So I like how halfway through the story, the stakes change. You have so much change personally for the Doctor, because now the Master's here and he's got to deal with that. And you have this whole bit about the Lost City coming out. I actually really like it. I like most of the guest cast. I do wish they had done like they originally wanted and cast a female in the second-in-command role for the miners. I think that would have been a really good fit for a female, and would have been definitely pushing boundaries for the time. And I think it's a shame that they weren't allowed to do that the way the director wanted. The TARDIS appearing and disappearing does look kind of weird. I know Michael just didn't know that's how it was supposed to do. I do like Michael Bryant as a director. But I like the story. Again, I think the Master's good in it. I think John and Jo are good in it. I love Jo's reaction to actually going off-world for the first time and how she's scared and spooked. That's a very real and very human reaction to that. So I love that she has a very human, natural reaction to what's going on in the story. And I really like the guest cast with the colonists as well. So I think it's a good story. I really like Colony in Space. Number 4 on the list is Terror of the Autons. And it's really hard to pick with these top 4. They're all really, really, really good. Terror of the Autons is really good. This is probably my favorite performance from Roger himself. And again, I'm ranking the stories based on the stories, not necessarily on Roger's performance, because that would be a very different list. This is probably my favorite performance Roger does. I love how calm, collected, and in control he is in this story. That very first scene with him at the beginning when he's talking to the guy who runs the circus is one of the best scenes, I think, of any Master. I love it how just, again, he's in control of the situation. He's calm, he's collected, he's dominating. To me, that's the Master. It's one of the reasons why I have trouble with Sim's Master, like the more unhinged Master. And I know each version of the Master is going to be different, just like each incarnation of the Doctor is different. But for me, I always think of the Master as that calm, collected, 10 moves ahead at chess Master. And he is in this story. He's had time to lay down his plan. He's getting everything set up. I like when the one guy's getting smothered by the chair, how he's just real calm about it. And he's even telling the other guy, oh, nope, I won't tolerate it. And then even the one time when Farrell's dad makes him mad, you do see him start to crack a little bit when he's like, but then he catches himself. He calms down, he even compliments him. You're a strong-willed man, dangerously strong-willed. Even though he's already planning how to kill him, he's complimenting him. He's at least admitting that, strong-willed. I really love Roger in this story. Plus, I like the script in itself. It's nice to see the Autons come back, because I do like the Autons. I think the Autons have never done a bad story because they're used very sparingly, so all of their stories have been good. This is another great example of that. And I think it's a great introduction to Jo as well. I really like Jo in this story, and that very first scene between her and John I think is fantastic. It's a really good story. Next on the list is Frontier in Space. I really like this one as well. I like the Draconians. I think they're a great actual alien design. The physical design of them, I think, is really, really good. I like the fact they're not bad guys. They're just another intelligent race who have been tricked into a war with the humans by a third party who's manipulating events. And I like how the Master is involved with that. I really like this one. I like how Roger plays the Master in this one. I like that the Master and the Third Doctor tend to have a lot of respect for each other. You can tell there's always a respect between the two. Even when like the Doctor's captured on the spaceship and him and the Master interact, I really love their interactions in this story. Although I always love when the Master and the Third Doctor interact. Those are always a good watch. It only loses a couple points because I think the final scene with the Master in it, I just wish it had been more. I mean, at the time they filmed this, they didn't know this would be, Roger's version of the Master's final scene. Sadly, Roger passed away in an accident a few months after it aired. And there's no way they could have known. But I just wish his final scene had a little more emotional weight behind it, since it is his final scene. So it loses a couple points for that. But other than that, it's a really, really good story. Nice to see the Ogrons back, too. Number 2 on the list is the Sea Devils. I love the Sea Devils. It's such a good story. I love the Silurian story and the Sea Devil story. They're both really good. The Silurian story I think I like a little better just because I love the ending, that ending scene with Liz and the Third Doctor. I really think it's really well done. But as a whole story, I do think objectively Sea Devils is a better story as a whole. I think it's done really well. I like that you actually have the Third Doctor talking to Joe about how him and the Master were friends once long ago. Because that's something you see more in the modern series when it talks about how close they were in their younger days. You don't see that as much in Classic Who, but you do get a good acknowledgement of it in the Sea Devils, and I love that. Not just that they knew each other, but that they were friends, and that they were close. I like that we get that here. It's nice to see how the Master has once again manipulated events to his advantage, how he's even managed to get the Warden on his side. One thing about the Master, he'll find out, what makes you tick and learn how to use it against you. That's really nice here. And I really like the Sea Devil design for one. If they ever bring the Sea Devils back, I really want them to keep that kind of Classic Who design, because I love their Classic Who design. Don't do like you did with the Silurians, because they really messed up the Silurians when they brought them back. I'd really like them to stay true to Classic Who. I really like that the Master asked the Doctor to help him work on his machine, because my fan theory, my headcanon, is that he didn't need to do that, because to me that could be even a plot weakness, because that's what enables the Doctor to save the day and stop everything, is because he he messed with the Master's machine when he was helping him make it. And I feel like the Master shouldn't have needed the Doctor's help. The Master is intelligent on his own. He's very smart. And in some fields, he's smarter than the Doctor, it's even mentioned. I think even in Terror of the Autons, it mentions that. So I feel like the Master could have done that on his own, and that the only reason he has the Doctor help him is to create a plot hole where the Doctor can say he sabotaged the machine. But in my head canon, I think that may have been the Master offering an olive branch to his friend. I think there's a part of him that wanted to have them on the same side. Even if it's just in that circumstance, even if it's just for a little bit, I think there is some part of Delgado's Master that still missed being able to be friends with his friend, to be friends with a Doctor, who still kind of wished they were on the same side. And I think he didn't necessarily need the Doctor's help. I think he just wanted to work next to his friend again. Even if it was on almost a subconscious level, I think there's a part of him that wanted that. And that's my headcanon, is that he got the Doctor's help, not because he needed it, but because part of him just wanted it. And I really like that, and that really does help the story in my headcanon. And number 1 on the list is Mind of Evil. I really like Mind of Evil. Before the Season 8 box set had come out, I had mentioned several times that was the story I was most looking forward to seeing, because it just looked so interesting. The footage I'd seen from it, in like clips and stuff, the story synopsis, it just sounded like a fascinating story. And it is. It's such a good story. Again, Roger is much like he is in Terror of the Autons. Very calm. He's had time to set up his plan, to get everything established, to have everything set up the way he wants it. So he's got that same demeanor he did in Terror, where he's calm, laid back, reserved. Feels like a guy you could talk sense with, like a businessman. John's really good here. I love that we get to see that he is having emotional fallout from Inferno, that's not just something they brushed over out of the way, keeping in mind the story is just a couple stories after Inferno. the fact that the fear it launched onto was fire and burning, and him mentioning seeing the alternate Earth being destroyed by fire and lava and inferno. I like the fact that that did have an emotional impact on him, and that we get to see that here, because I love Inferno too, so it's nice to see that there were repercussions from what happened in the story, and that he wasn't able to save everybody, and that whole world he wasn't able to save. I really enjoyed that. I think the Chinese actress does good here, and I know she was, I can't remember if it was the director's wife, one of the producer's wife. I know she was somebody's wife, and it was a good. I'm glad she was able to step in. She does a good job. I really liked her in the part. I think it was good casting. Yeah, I like Mind of Evil. It's really good. I like the idea of the killer machine, and the idea of, once again, the creation growing beyond its creator. Even the master at the end couldn't control it. It's definitely a terrifying thought. Not only does it kill you with your worst fears, they manifest like real. Like, you actually get the claw marks on your face from the rats, or drowning. Yeah, there's actually water in his lungs. It's really fascinating. I really like Mind of Evil. I think Delgado is great in it. I think the rest of the cast is good in it, and I think the story and the execution are fantastic. So what do you think? What are your favorite Delgado stories? What are your favorite Third Doctor Error Master stories? Judging by the stories themselves, not necessarily the performance. Comment down below and let me know what you think of my list, and let me know what your list is and why you feel the way you do. Other things to do: click the like button, click the subscribe button, click the bell for notifications so you never miss out when I have a new video. I do a new video daily. I have also started a Patreon if you would like to become one of my patrons and support me on that. There is a link to that down in the description below. My entry-level tier is only $2 a month, so if you would like to support what I do, check that out if you have a minute. I would certainly appreciate that. Most importantly, though, stay safe out there, and thank you for watching.